All right. Thank you very much for your patience. Once again, if you're just joining us, a very good evening to you and welcome to this evening's session. My name is Frank Mobogo, and I'll be your host for this session happening today, of course, Thursday, the 11th of September. Without wasting your time, we'll just quickly, reel out all we have for you today. Before then, I would like to quickly say, the webinar is a collaboration between the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, which of course is MOFI, and ARM Investment Managers, and together with Nigeria Integrated Social Housing Cooperative Society Limited, NISH. So we are gathered here basically to have a conversation around the initiative called MREIF, which is the Ministry of Finance Real Estate Investment Fund. So if you're just hearing that for the first time, MREIF is a bold step towards addressing the Nigerians' housing deficit, and creating sustainable opportunities for Nigerians living both, here in Nigeria and of course in diaspora. Without wasting your time, I'll quickly reel out what, the agenda, how the meeting, of course, will progress. We'll be taking the welcome notes from the NISH convener and president, by name Dr. Adelaku Said. Thereafter, we will get the opening remarks from the managing director, ARM Investment Managers, in person of Mrs. Kai Oga, and then we'll go straight to the presentation proper to be taken by the team lead, business channel sales, business development, Abuja, in person of Uchenna Ibeadotan. Question and answer will come next. So if you have any question during the course of the presentation, you can drop the questions on the chat, or when we get to the question and answer session, you can use the the raise hand icon and we'll unmute you to ask those questions. Be rest assured that of course we're here to give all the answers to your question. All right, the closing remarks will come next after the question and answer session. That will be taken by the head of investment of MREIF, of course, in person of Olubi Debi. I think that will be that for that. So quickly, let's get to take the welcome note from the convener himself and President Dr. Adelaku Said. He is the, once again, convener and president of NISH, which is the Nigeria Integrated Social Housing Cooperative Society Limited. Good evening, sir. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me, sir?
Hello. Again, today you are not muting my system.
Can you hear me now? Yes, I can hear you. All systems are unmuted, both of them, sir. Both devices. Thank you very much. We can hear you. Good evening.
Thank you very much. Yes. Good evening, our distinguished facilitators from MREIF and ARM, especially the managing director, ARM, Uche and the other teams. Thank you very much for facilitating this webinar today. This is the second in the series. And our most important guest here, the subscribers, you are all welcome from wherever you are in the world. This webinar is to enlighten you about MREIF mortgage facilities, the processes, the benefits, and the requirements. So please feel free to listen and ask questions at the end of the day. We have two batches of participants today. Those who attended the first webinar, probably because you have some questions to ask, some clarification. That's why we have added you to this group. So it's more or less of a refresher course for you. Now, the new participants, you are also welcome on board. Uche will do a great job to let you know what MREIF is all about, the percentage interest applicable, the amount that you can access, what are the conditions. So you are in for a good time, and this is one of the renewed hope agenda to make houses available to Nigerians wherever they may be. And the important thing, the beautiful thing about this program is you don't have to take properties from the platform. You can actually select your own properties from your developers. So in order not to waste time, we have spent about 20 minutes of our time during introduction. I will hand it over to the MD to give a welcome address and introduction. Thank you very much and enjoy yourself. Good deliberations ahead of us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Adelakun. It's quite a pleasure to be here once again. To our returning participants, it's a pleasure to have you on the call again today. And then to those that are new, I'll just give a welcome to you and really thank you. Indeed, it's a renewed hope agenda. That's really what we're hoping that, people who are listening will take advantage of the opportunity and get to unlock their home ownership agenda through this MOFI Real Estate Investment Fund. So that's actually what we titled the webinar, Unlocking Home Ownership Through MOFI Real Estate Investment Fund. So my name is Kai Oga. I'm the MD at AR Investment Managers, and we are the fund manager to the MREIF. So it's really just to speak to the fact that it's quite exciting that we have you here today. And a lot of people have been asking questions, they're interested in just understanding more about the Ministry of Finance Real Estate Investment Fund. Questions are coming from everywhere. This opportunity is for you to really understand what is MREIF. So it's MREIF. And how can this opportunity help you to achieve your own dream of home ownership? It's also to sort of acknowledge the fact that there's so many challenges for everybody. A number of people in Nigeria today, we're facing a number of housing challenges in the industry, in the space. In Nigeria today, there's issues around rising interest rates, stringent lending requirements. Some of the questions that have started to come in speak to the sort of requirements, and also the increasing home prices. The prices of homes 2 years ago or even last year in any part of the country have in some cases even doubled. And what does that imply for you to help you to secure financing and purchase a home? So, all of these questions are why we're here today. It's just an opportunity to explore and think about a more innovative solution that can help us overcome the obstacles and, of course, to achieve your goal of home ownership, and also to have opportunity to look at something more affordable along the housing lines. So the MREIF is the federal government of Nigeria initiative, which is really an intervention in the real estate sector, and it aims at developing a sustainable platform to help you have long-term, low-cost mortgage financing, which would help Nigerians at any place, even if you're in diaspora, if you're living out of the country, if you have relatives outside and people in different locations, as long as you're a Nigerian. The aim is to provide a platform for market-driven sustainable funding, and then we can have those supplied for houses to Nigerians. So ARM Investment Managers is the fund manager, and the Ministry of Finance Incorporated is the fund sponsor. So the mandate of the fund is to close that gap, right? There's a huge housing deficit gap, but the aim is to address both the supply and demand issues by providing the low-rate mortgage loans to people who want to buy and for those who are eligible. So the MREIF is really structured to cater to both the demand and supply sides of the real estate industry. It is open to all. It's open to all Nigerians. You're eligible as long as you're a Nigerian, and you can get your house across the six, all the geopolitical zones. So everywhere, if you wanted to get a house in Enugu, in Calabar, in Damaturu, in Kano, just as long as there's documentation which they will speak to that backs it up. So basically, when you're done today, I would say, please take action. Take action by asking questions. Take action by speaking more to somebody personally. Take action by going to the bank, starting your documentation. Because if you ask me, a number of the process lies with the individual. It's how quickly can you start the process, right? Fill your form, start to get the documentation done. And please just get a lot of clarification. That's why we're here today. So I'm just going to quickly hand over to the next person who'll be speaking. I believe that will be Uche, and he would get us started and talk to us about everything we need to do along the chain. Once more, to those that are returning and have decided to attend the webinar a second time to get clarification, it gladdens my heart that you find this as a useful opportunity. So welcome once more. And to those that are just joining for the very first time, you're welcome. Please just feel free to engage with the team at ARN, even if it's outside of the call, ask your questions, but please take a decision today. The action you take today will be one that I'm sure will be a defining one for you. And this opportunity, like I say to many, comes but only once, maybe in a lifetime. So take advantage of it. You're welcome, and it's a pleasure once more. I'll hand over to Uche to take the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sky. First off, I want to welcome you all again, standing on existing protocol. You're welcome to this session on your path to home ownership in Nigeria. This initiative is basically set up to address housing concerns with regards to deficits, and also to ensure people get access to affordable homes, fair mortgage, funded fully, funded partly by MREIF. And MREIF stands for Ministry of Finance, Real Estate Investment Fund. Frank, you could proceed to the next slide. Okay, so quickly we are going to run through. Okay, someone said he can't hear me. Please confirm if I'm audible. We just need a thumbs up. Questions would be sent through the chat box. So with that, we have a couple of reps on the call with me to do justice to your question. Thank you. Okay, I could proceed. Thank you. Thank you for your confirmations. Okay, so quickly, we're going to talk about MREIF, going through the content, background, MREIF structure, the structure of MREIF, how it's set up to benefit Nigerians. And of course, we are going to highlight the benefits of MREIF to Nigerians, both in Nigeria and in diaspora, and also how the application process works. We're going to explain in details how this could go through, and of course, the next steps to take. Next slide, Frank. Okay, cool. First off, let's put a background to the whole initiative and basically what brought about MREIF. We understand Nigeria suffers from shortage in housing. This has been experienced over the years from when I even could remember regime. So as far back as 1980s, I could remember low-cost housing programs that were set up for those that were in Kaduna, Angwami low-cost, Jakande low-cost in Lagos, and a couple of other states where we had low-cost housing. The idea back then was to provide affordable homes to the low cadre of Nigerians. Now, having said this, what has happened? Different governments have come in and gone, different regimes trying to address different sectors of the economy where they feel there are front burner issues. And for this present regime, what they have decided to do was to pick out housing as a major concern. And of course, you all know as it stands now, housing is a major case. Typically, what happens is that you just have housing shortages around us, basically. Now, in terms of the housing shortage, what are the real factors that have led to it? Number one is rapid urbanization. Nigeria is a fast-growing country with a fast-growing population, moving from the local areas to urban areas, and this has been happening rapidly. Also, we have the macroeconomic headwinds, the impact of inflation on prices of goods and services. Typically, what we've seen, the transfer of high cost of construction materials, the high cost of construction materials, the impact itself, it's pushed down to the final buyer of the houses. So you tend to see a vicious circle of housing deficits happening constantly in the country. According to Estate Intel, the deficit currently stands at 28 million units as at yesterday. Because every day, every second, one person is migrating from a local income area or villages to major cities in the country, thereby giving rise to, of course, housing deficits, which has been exacerbated based on the various factors that we have explained. And then now what happens at the end of the day? Government looked at it and said, okay, in line with their renewed hope agenda on providing housing for all, they also looked at the SDG goals of curating safe, resilient communities. They decided to have what they call a private collaboration between the private sector and, of course, government, thereby setting up the MREIF fund. And the MREIF fund basically is a 1 trillion naira SHEF fund that is used specifically to address housing deficits in the country. Next slide. So we could see this in numbers. On a daily basis, we could see 28 million units for housing deficits, representing housing deficits gap as at yesterday. And then, of course, it will require about 6 trillion to, of course, handle housing. So we're just scratching the surface with 1 trillion. But of course, the idea is that this program is meant to act as a catalyst in the housing landscape, thereby ensuring home ownership, acquisition of home ownership that are affordable for all Nigerians, both in Nigeria and in diaspora. And when we say all Nigerians, we mean the 6 geopolitical zone. And then, of course, if you look at the average interest rate for mortgage loans, it stands between 28 to 30%. And then this has been impacted further by the effect of inflation on the common man. In this regard, we are talking of your spending power. So what has government tried to do in this regard? Next slide. Government intends to handle this with a two-pronged approach, which includes provision of access to long-term, low-cost mortgage financing at scale for all Nigerians across the cadres, right? Across different income cadres. And of course, at scale means through the 6 geopolitical zone at a low interest rate of 9.75%, which initially we started with 12, but due to constant engagements and feedback, we were able to crash it down to 9.75, making it a single-digit interest rate on lending, as against the commercial rates of 28 to 30%. And then on the other side, which is the supply side, provide some sort of construction finance using offtake guarantees to developers to enable them access lending at an effective rate, and of course, ensure some sort of catalyst effects in the housing landscape sector, particularly that of the developers, to ensure that the right houses are being brought up for Nigerians. Next slide. Now, this two-pronged approach is backed up by a digital platform which enables a handshake between the home buyer, the developers, and the EFIs. The participating EFIs in this concern, they are about 12, and we're still onboarding more EFIs. By EFIs, we mean eligible financial institutions like banks and PMIs, like primary mortgage institutions as well. So currently we have over 12 banks participating. Engagements are ongoing for other banks to join in the fray. Now, as explained earlier on, MOFI, Ministry of Finance Incorporated Real Estate Investment Fund, is a 1 trillion share program that is closed-ended, registered with SEC as a unit trust scheme, with sole mandate of distribution via mortgages through banks, via mortgages to average Nigerians, assessing it at 9.75%, I repeat, for up to 20 years at a capped year or a capped retirement age of 60. And when we mean up to 20 years, it simply means that the person probably at the point of application would have been less than 40. And then where the person is above 40, you just discount it from the 60 years to get the number of years that would match your mortgage tenor. Also, the single obligor limit on this on this lending, mortgage lending is 100 million. It means you can access up to 100 million to acquire homes anywhere in the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. And of course, the property should have a valid title, which is C of O, to ensure that this works. Now, I've also explained the demand side and the supply side. Of the demand side, which includes providing low-cost mortgage loans to qualified home buyers, thus creating effective demand for housing supplied within the scheme, and the developing the mortgage market. And on the supply side, like I said, provision of conditional uptake guarantees to approved housing developers to enhance their ability to obtain construction finance from different banks. So far, the first and the second series have been done and will raise the total of 250 billion naira. 150 billion naira came by way of concession funding from the federal government, while 100 billion was raised from the private sector through ARM, who are the fund managers for this initiative. It is expected that we will go back to the market to source more funds for the third and fourth series to raise the fund capital to up to 1 trillion. And of course, because it is backed by SEC rules and it is registered as a unit trust scheme, the fear of if this is tied to this government is not necessarily there anymore, because based on the protection and based on the setup, it transcends this present regime, and it is protected to ensure that the construction market or the housing or real estate market or real estate landscape is catalyzed to the point where the right type of housings are brought up, 1. 2, a sort of structured way of payment of properties, payment for acquisition of homes or properties is achieved as against the plug and play method, which is happening currently. Next slide. Now, having said this, I've highlighted all the activities. These are the activities. Initially, we started off with a 12% interest rate. Through consistent engagement, it was crashed down to 8.75. We also started with an equity contribution of 20%. Right now, it is crashed to 10%. So it means you can acquire your dream home by just starting off with a minimum equity contribution of 10% of the value. And then the MREIF fund takes care of the remaining 90% or the remaining outstanding balance through mortgage, where you can now restructure your repayments at a convenient way for you over a period of time for up to 20 years for those that would qualify within that age bracket. Currently, we've distributed up to 1,000 mortgages with over 27 billion already distributed so far. And interestingly, a lot of people have harped on this project, and we also expect you all in this session to also latch on this opportunity to take advantage of this that has not happened in the past, and neither has it happened anytime in the history. Basically, what we've seen is that existing programs such as NHF, where people have done contributions and have gone to take loans, it took them 2 to 3 years to assess those loans. This one enables you to assess mortgage loans within 3 weeks to 6 weeks. As a matter of fact, if your KYC documentations are complete with the banks, meeting the internal credit criteria of the banks, it is expected for the funds to be disbursed immediately to the developer. So what are the advantages here? Number one, you get to enter into the real estate market, acquire homes at present rates less than, with 1%, a single digit interest rates. And of course, avoiding the impact of inflation, because at the end of the day, the restructured payments is at 9.75%, which is way, way below the interest rate of above 25%. So what does this entail? Once you register, get all the right documents done, get the banks, identify the property, you identify a property either from our platforms, which the digital platform is meant to do, provide you different property listings, and where you don't have those property listings, you can either self-source, and where you don't have self-source properties, you can also engage the niche team, niche ARM team to provide you resources in terms of list of properties that align with your plans or your income. And then we'll support you all through and midwife you from the point of application to the point of disbursement, through handshake to the appropriate banks, and then of course, provide ancillary support services behind to ensure that that is also disbursed in line with our mandates. I think that's basically it. Next slide. So here shows basically the SEC setup for the MREIF initiative. So you could see it, fund name, Ministry of Finance Incorporated Real Estate Investment Fund, registered with SEC. Program size is $1 trillion. The pilot scheme have already started with 150 billion concessionary funding, 100 billion from commercial funding, which is sourced from the private sector. It has already been rated AAA rating by Augusto and GCR. The fund has a 99-year life. Beyond that, the distribution policy, you could see it, okay, this is for the investor, but generally these funds are basically meant to be distributed for acquisitions of homes at an affordable rate as provided by the fund. So next slide. So how is the mortgage process created? As an individual, you latch on to our website, or as a developer, you latch on to our website as well. Go to the website. And quickly register on the website. After you register and set up your platform, an OTP is sent to you to set up your account, and then you have access. So on the platform itself, the next thing to do is to check how affordable the properties are to you and what type of properties you can assess. So an affordability test is done. There's an assessment part of the platform that allows you to do your checks. And then the next thing after that is also to proceed to the property listings. And then, of course, after that, you can now proceed to do all that you need to do by checking the properties, ensuring you get a property there. So where you can't find the property in the location, in terms of type, size, amount, all you need to do is to contact us, the NISH ARM NISH team, to help you with the resource for the types of properties that you would want to, or you can actually source by yourself. So for those people that have already gotten properties that they want to buy, and then they found that they started off with what we call payment plan. And then at the end of the day, probably you had made some commitments. That can also be migrated here to ensure that the developer gets his money on time and for you to restructure your payment rather than being forced to rush into an 18-month or 24-month payment plan, which might be impact or give pressures to your income. So there are a whole lot of opportunities available and there are a whole lot of benefits on this program. Next slide, please. So like I said, it's available in the 6 geopolitical zones. These were the pilot cities we started off with. But of course, someone in Abuja can get home in Oka, can get home in Ilorin, can get home as far as Damaturu, can get home as far as Jigawa or Kano. Someone in Kano as well can be there and get homes and properties in Abuja. As far as the right titles, KYCs are done, internal credit criteria are met in the banks. Pronto, just pay minimum of 10% of the value of the property as equity, and the rest is sorted out. What next? Next slide. So, like I said about the benefits, please proceed with the slides for the benefits. Okay, number one, access to long-term low-cost mortgage at low interest rates for up to 20 years. I've explained that. Opportunity to scale home ownership through real estate and construction sectors. We've also explained that earlier on. By bringing together home buyers and sellers, it therefore provides a bridge and connects demand and supply. This is also availed on the digital platforms that we've explained. Seamless end-to-end application process on the platform, from eligibility assessment to disbursement of the mortgage loan. This can also be effected on the platform. And interestingly, you can also access 25% of your retirement savings accounts balance to augment your equity contribution. So where you have funds and you also have pension funds, you can access 25% of those balances to augment the equity contributions to be able to apply for your homes. Interestingly also, this also avails you the opportunity to bundle buy or bundle apply. In this instance, it simply means two persons, couples, couples can apply together to enhance their chances of accessing these products. Also, two siblings or close family members can also do this as well. So this opportunity is open to all Nigerians, both in Nigeria and in diaspora. And for those clients that are ethically inclined, where they would want only halal type of funding for household ownership, this also is available, but will kick off towards end of the year or probably beginning of the year, because a version of the halal version of this will be launched pretty soon. Currently, we are just doing the regulatory approvals and all that. And once it is completed, we'll be launching the halal version to, of course, have a wider range of inclusivity for various persons with different ethical considerations. Next slide, please. So I've explained it. Now we're going to talk about the eligibility criteria. First of all, you have to be a Nigerian. By Nigerian, we mean Nigerian citizen. You must meet specific income and credit criteria with the banks. Required documentation must be submitted and application process must be completed. On the platform, you're only going to be enabled to have access to the service. So you have to create your account on the platform. However, beyond the platform, after you have created an account, all other services will midwife you through Either you do it self-sourced on the platform or push it through with the properties on the platform, or you come through the niche ARM team to help you with the support for all you need to make sure that this is achieved. Initially, it was minimum equity contribution of 20, now it is 10. A valid offer letter on the subject property must be obtained to enable us process the mortgage. And of course, you must have a good credit report. In terms of required documentation, it includes evidence of source of income, utility bill not more than 3 months old, valid means of identification, 6 months pay slip if employed, and where you are self-employed for business owners, you can also use your audited financial statements to support it. Also, you must be a tax-paying person or tax-paying citizen. So in this regard, you have to provide your tax card or your TCC or tax clearance certificates. We also need copies of your BVN printout, a valid offer letter to support it. The offer letter will have to come from the developers of the property. Evidence of your 20% equity contribution where you would want to augment your 10% minimum contribution with the equity contributions derived from your RSA balance. That is 25% of your RSA balance. That can also be achieved. But of course, you have to provide your RSA statement of account to show your capacity to use it. And the RSA account must be for account holders above 3 to 5 years. That said, these are the requirements. So banks have their own peculiar internal credit criteria. So at the point of engagement, when we get to the point where you have to submit your documentation, we will engage you and then put you through. Beyond that, some banks will prefer domiciliation, while other people will also prefer what they call wallets, opening of wallet accounts to service the mortgage. However, as the case may be, it is good you start now and get this done. It makes more sense that someone works, have a structured way of payment to acquire his property, and not at the point of retirement, housing is still a concern for that person. So this avails you the opportunity to latch on the market at present day value without necessarily being impacted with the impact of inflation costs or inflation impact on your spending power. Next slide, please. So we've said all this, quickly rush to www.mreif.com.ng. And then, of course, after registering and setting up your account, you conduct the affordability assessment to determine the maximum property value, maximum mortgage amount, and if you are qualified based on income, age, or equity contribution. Also on the platform, developers are allowed to list properties according to location, property types, and amount. So you could be on the platform, you see properties in Lagos, Abuja, across the 6 geopolitical zones. And interestingly, you can also book for your inspection, virtual inspection on the platform, and where you would want to inspect physically the properties or nominate someone to go to do a physical inspection, you can book that on the platform. So this has cut off middlemen. It has also cut off the bureaucracies, inefficiencies that exist in the system. It has also cut off the long waits of waiting for loan or to apply for loan over a period of time. Since you have a direct handshake between the developer and the EFI or the banks, what it has done is to cut it short and make it seamless in the sense that one can pay for a property. Developer takes the property, developer gets fund of the outstanding balance on his property within 3 to 6 weeks, while the subscriber who is taking the mortgage has access to the property immediately after he pays his equity contribution. So if you see it, it's a win-win for all. For those developers on the platform, it enables you, cuts down the time of wait for returns or payments on your property. It means that we can also take on the property to ensure you go into larger projects. It also cuts down the time for the wait of return of payments on the property. So it means that you can get funds quickly and plan better. And of course, we have a very good platform and also the access to the 25% retirement savings balance, which will act as a support or a way of augmenting what you already have to pay for equity contribution. Next slide, please. So next steps. So like I said, this is the sign-up page. We are going to share this information to everyone. Sam, you will have to share that on the link on the chat box for those that would want to access it, or visit our group page where group WhatsApp group where you could get other support informations, and in fact, ask your questions there. Reps are available to answer. And of course, once you go to the platform, click and get started, open your account and enjoy the ride. Next slide. So here are just names of the contacts. I want to thank you for going through these slides with me. We are hopeful that at the end of the day, the home ownership objective through affordable means will be achieved, and home for Nigerians, both in Nigeria and in diaspora. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Uchenna, for your presentation. At this point, we'll be taking questions from everyone. I see that Tolu's hand has been up. Tolu, would you want to confirm if that has been, a question that's been up for a while? Do you have any questions to ask? I'll be unmuting you shortly. Okay, so we have, okay, Tolu, you're unmuted. Please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Good evening.
Yeah, as you are aware, I sent a message on the platform regarding submission of my setup profile. I've had a problem doing that. I uploaded my passport, filled out the form as necessary. But once I upload my supporting documents and for me to submit, it clears up and I've not been able to submit the setup form. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing this up. Sam notified us about it. Shortly after the call, I will be engaging you through the process to identify where the issues are, and of course, it will be resolved. Also, the technical team will be very much available to offer you support in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Tolu. I think the next person that would be second. So that would be Abdul. Abdul, you're muted. Please go ahead with your questions. Mr. Abdul Salam, are you Abdul Rashid rather? You can unmute yourself and please go ahead with your question. Okay, so while we're waiting for him, I will quickly take that of Yemi. I'm going to unmute you now. So you can go ahead and unmute yourself, Yemi.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is my first time. My name is Yemi Falayajo. And I wanted to ask, if you join with your spouse, would it change the capital, the loaning, the amount that you can borrow, or it just makes your chances better? And I just wanted to reiterate that you can either get a loan for a property that is already available or a property that needs to be developed. I just wanted that clarity. Thank you very much. And then thirdly, what is the turnaround time? How soon can, what is the process? I see the workflow, but what are the timelines? 6 months, 12 months, 3 months? Thank you very much, and over.
Uche?
That was valid questions. We keep getting these questions. Your first question, the idea for joint application is to improve chances in terms of income. So we've seen instances where people have income and then the property they are looking for, the net income they quote may not allow them access that property. So typically the idea was just to bundle and get an average income that would meet the income criteria. Beyond that, we've also seen instances where an applicant, probably the age might not favor him in terms of probably is closer to retirement, and he may want to step back as a secondary applicant and use someone of younger age as the primary applicant to enjoy the benefits of longer tenure for repayments. So those are the advantages behind the bundling. Now, in terms of the maximum amount they could access, it is still capped at 100 million. Then for your question with regards to developed property or developing property, so it depends on what you are trying to imply, but I will just paint two scenarios for you. So for one that has a land asset and is still developing a property, we don't offer mortgage to owners of land to develop their property. However, we offer mortgage to someone to actually purchase a developing property that is at carcass level for developed to up to 75% status or stage. It has to be developed minimum of 75% from a developer. And then from there, you can access to buy either as carcass or pre-finished or advanced finish, or as the case may be, or completely finished. So it's on developed property or developing property to a certain stage. And it is not for an individual that is developing, but rather from a developer developing a property. What was the last question? The third question.
Turnaround time. Turnaround time. What's the average turnaround time? And sorry, I have one more question. I'm sorry. What's the minimum age that you can apply? Minimum age for application?
Oh, okay, because you joined up is 60. Minimum age
so that's
you can
maximum.
apply.
Minimum.
No, maximum. Yeah. Minimum is, of course, legal age of 18 and above.
Okay, all right.
Legal
Thank
age
you.
of 18 and above, yeah. So
the turnaround time.
Three factors come into play: income criteria, age, and lastly, the amount of the property. So you can't say someone that is earning, say, 300,000 will be looking for a property of 50 million. It's not possible, because what you are going to use to service the mortgage is 1/3 of what you are earning as net income. So you see why two persons could combine and improve their net income such that it meets a criteria to purchase a particular property. Also, someone that is 58 years old, and yes, he has qualified for the property, he has the right amount to pay. If you discount it from 60 years, what he has is just 2 years. So he may need to get either his son or a sibling or whoever, his spouse, to now be the primary applicant while he steps back as secondary. But by the time they join their net income, you should be able to cover to go into the mortgage contract and extend the tenure for the payments. So it is a win-win for all. Lastly, you also said trying to remember that the third thing we were trying to turnaround time.
No, I
So
asked.
the
Yes,
turnaround
please.
time that you asked for, exactly. Turnaround time typically starting from the point of application on the platform, within a day or two, within a day you can open your account. However, we start counting from when your application gets to the bank. It means before your application gets to the bank, you have identified a property. You must have collected an offer letter. So even that is dependent on you. Where we are counting from is from the bank. Once you get your application or set up an account for mortgage, and then you start the process, immediately you provide all documents that are required, meet the internal credit criteria of the banks, pass your KYC checks. The bank itself, after doing all that, quickly sends to their credit, internal credit team for review. And of course, after they get it, they get approval to disburse. It is sent to us, the fund managers, to approve and release the funds to the bank. So at that point, let's say from 3 weeks to 6 weeks, as the fund is released from us to the banks, and you have paid your equity contribution, we make up the outstanding balance and pay the developer immediately. And then the property is released to you to assess. However, a legal mortgage is registered on the property and the title withheld with the bank until you finish your mortgage contract before it's released to you. So it's a win-win for all. So for example, I can probably before the knowledge of this session, identified property, I had committed some funds, and I had 24 months to pay. I have paid 30%. I can quickly come here, as far as the title documents are right, get my application submitted to the bank, and convert my contract with the developer of 24 months repayment to the bank. The 30% that I've already paid to the developer has qualified me already because the minimum contribution is 10%. The developer writes to the bank to say, I have 30% of the value of the property being paid to me already by the applicant. So my balance is the 70% left. The bank pays for it. It is translated to a mortgage contract. I can now, as the individual that has subscribed, have a longer tenure of maybe 10 years to repay to the bank, but I already have access to the property. Remember, the property itself appreciates on a daily basis. So would you have waited to gather money to buy a house that at the end of the day, every day, the impact of inflation rises the cost? Or would you have entered a mortgage contract today and get access to the property and then restructure your repayments over a period of time under the inflation rates at a fixed rate or reducing balance method over a tenure? And then, of course, the property is yours. So where you even have enough money to pay or come out of the mortgage contracts, you can actually do that as well. So these are all the opportunities availed in the program. So it's a win-win for all. Like I said, everybody should latch onto it and ensure that it works out. There are some questions that have been dropped on the platform. My team members will answer you, or probably Frank, you may need to go around them much later.
That's okay. That's okay.
Ma, I hope I have answered your questions. Thank you so much.
All right. Let's see the next person here. We will be unmuting Onuga. You can unmute yourself now and ask your question.
Good evening, sir. My name is Awunuga. Though I've been off and on this meeting, but I just want to make this question, ask this question. One that has an ARM account before, can one invest through that path, through the ARM account?
Sorry, I
Hello?
don't get that. The ARM account you're
Okay,
talking, is it in pension or in investment?
that's actually an investment.
Okay, so this is not an investment. This is a mortgage. So I'm trying to marry the two so that I get what your question is about. Could
Okay, let
you
me
go
rephrase
over
that.
it again so
Can I
that I
open
could?
another ARM account for this mortgage? Let me rephrase it
No,
that
no,
way.
no, 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 no. So ARM is here as a fund manager and also as a facilitator for the MREIF program. We are not a bank. We're only going to help you midwife the process from the point of application, the point of disbursement, in conjunction with NISH. So we are here as facilitators, basically. But beyond that, we also have the fiduciary function of being the fund managers to this initiative. So typically what happens is that you have to open a bank account, rather a mortgage institution, by creating a wallet account to service your mortgage, or you select the type of any bank that you feel you have an existing relationship with that you could work with. Is on the platform itself. So when you go to the platform and register, you will see the listed banks. So where you are not having any relationship with any of those banks, come back to us. We'll direct you to the right place to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Uche.
Thank you very
Next, of
much. Thank you
course,
very much.
would be so your name is saved as Ni. I have enabled your mic. You can now unmute yourself and ask your question. If you can hear me, okay, great.
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening. Please go ahead with your question.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I've already typed the question in the group, but then let me still ask. Though this is my first time appearing here, but then for some of us who are in the military, then for one reasons or the other, we voluntarily left, and then we are still under a pension scheme. I'm asking, are we qualified for this housing scheme? And then the second question is, while in the military, we already have a mortgage account that I think the government is already doing that for us. So my question now is, how is it going to be handled? Will it be merged to this very one, or how is it going to be done if I am qualified for it? Thank you.
These are two different schemes running differently. For your pension balances, you can only access 25% of your pension balance if you have not accessed it in the past to augment your equity contribution. So it has nothing to do with having pension. If your pension contribution has balances of which 25% of it can handle a minimum of 10% equity contribution for the property you chose, why not? You can use it. But if it is your mortgage contributions in the Nigerian military in the past, there are two different programs. We are not including NHF here. This is strictly a different program. NHF works with Federal Mortgage Bank. It's a different program itself. And let me even highlight this. This program is to support existing programs by acting as a catalyst and runs differently from the existing one. As we speak, there are different type of affordable housing schemes. You have family home funds. They also do theirs. You have Federal Mortgage Bank with NHF as support. They also do that. We have FHA doing their own as well. But these select banks have been picked. Funds have been provided through MOFI collaboration with the private sector, and all the bureaucracies, inefficiencies that have been in the system in the past like bottlenecks in terms of delays, processing time, and all that has been addressed by cutting short the time of disbursement, bringing a digital platform to ensure seamless processing of applications, and of course, having a handshake between the three major stakeholders in the housing sector, which is the developer, the banks, and of course, you, the buyer. So it all depends on what you would want to do. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Uche, for that. So Murtala Tijani, you can please go ahead with your question.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, all. Listening to the facilitator, and I have just few clarifications to make. One, the interest on the loan is 9.75%, if I get that correctly. The question then is that interest, does it run for the entire durations of the mortgage facility, or does it have kind of restructuring on a yearly basis? And are there other hidden charges in terms of maintenance, stuff like that? So I think there will be a need for clarifications on that. Then secondly, diaspora and self-employed people, what type of documentations are required for this set of people? Diaspora, yes, their place of abode is not presently here, and some documentations we're requesting for are more like things that is has to do with our environment here. That's one. Then secondly, that of self-employed, who is not really a formal kind of employment that we have the type of documentations that we're talking about here. So what are the documentations required as far as those set of people are concerned? And then three, the structure and role of the participants here now, FIS-Affordable, the ARM, the bank, the Ministry of Finance, and all. What are the clear distinct role for these four people I can say now: the bank, the ARM, the customer, as well as the developer? So what are the distinct roles do they have, and do they have their own charges different from this 9%, or everybody share from the 9% interest loan? So basically that's my take on the clarifications that is required. Thank you.
Mr. Mori, this is a hydra-headed question. I will attempt to fix it up. First thing first, the rate is fixed on an annual basis for up to 20 years. So typically what happens on each year, 9.75 fixed all through on an annual basis for up to 20 years. So it depends on how long your mortgage contract or tenure is. You are meant to service it on a monthly basis. So let's give a context to it. The property is 10 million. At 9.75 annual basis, it means you are going to pay 900 for 10 million. 9.75 will be
975,000
on the first year. So if 10 million takes out 975,000, what are we left with?
Okay, so that's 9.1.
So 9.25.
Yes.
That's 9,250,000 will be the principal for the next year. apply same 9.75 on 9,250,000. So what I'm saying is that the 9.75 is fixed, but it's applied on a reducing balance method across the tenor on a yearly basis. Is that clear?
Very clear.
So unlike the commercial banks, where the effect of MPR rates affects their rates, so in essence, it can oscillate. So they come back to you. This year we started with 9. Next year, because the government has adjusted the rate and is upwards, we have to adjust it by 15%. It doesn't happen here. It is fixed, and that's government's way of giving benefits to the citizens at a fixed rate. And this rate, if you recall, is less than our rebased inflation rate. So that answers your question, number one. Number two, it is open to Nigerians in diaspora. There are different, each bank has their peculiar requirements for diaspora clients. So at the point where that engagement comes up, contact us through the group, WhatsApp group, or the resources that are available to push you through with the bank engagement and provide you all the details that is required. We may not be able to give you a blanket detail for diasporas because each bank have their peculiarity. However, be rest assured that it may be the same across banks, but they might require extra. For example, they might require, if you're staying out there, they might require guarantees, counterpart guarantees in Nigeria for the fund you're applying for, to the tune of the fund you're applying for. So in this regard, you may also require extra guarantees here. Some form of KYC will be done on your work, or your what they call it, place of residence in diaspora. Some form of checks will also be done on your income or the income requirements that you have sent. So there are a whole lot. So it all depends on the banks. In some instances, they already have representatives outside in the diaspora or outside abroad that will act as an intermediary to do all the KYC checks on behalf of the applicant and then process it. Are there charges incurred in this process? Yes, but it is dependent on the bank. Would the bank affect any charges on your interest rate? No. Banks are also covered within the interest rate. For other ancillary services that are provided, the banks will cover their risk appetite in terms of KYC and all other checks like legal checks, like property search, like valuation. All those ones are borne by the banks and they avail you those rates for you to pay. But our fixed rate stands at 9.75% for the interest, and that is it. Same goes for a self-employed person, where the person is not organized enough to have books. Of course, beyond just submitting his bank statement for up to 3 years, he would have to enlist someone to, of course, prepare his financial for credit, so that it will make more sense. He meets the internal bank credit criteria to move on. And like I said, each banks have their own peculiarities and their own standards. So that is different. But the standard ones have been listed here. Your personal identification, your BVN, your tax, all those ones are standard. But all other internal credit criteria requirements are peculiar to each banks, and each banks have their own way of handling it. But however, all we have said is that self-employed can apply, and also an employee can apply. What are the structures or roles for the MREIF program? First off, MOFI is a department of Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Finance Incorporated is a vehicle which Ministry of Finance uses to achieve certain government projects or certain government endeavor through the program. So it's a standalone, and they are the owners of these projects or the owners of this program. So they are the sponsors. Government has used them as a vehicle to ensure that this is done. So MOFIS is the sponsor of the program, MREIF. Secondly, ARM is the designated fund manager to the program. We went through rigorous checks with all other fund managers, and at the end of the day, we came out successful, and we have started the rule since inception. We were also responsible for raising the 100 billion catapult funding in the first and second series of fund drive that had been done, and making the fund 250 billion as at this point. So ARM is the fund manager. We also have other functions of facilitating distribution of these funds to qualified home buyers. And of course, with this, they can acquire the home through distribution of these funds to the appropriate banks, and then the bank or designated banks, and then the banks itself will distribute it by way of mortgage at this agreed interest rate to various individuals.
All right.
So having said that, you could know what the banks also do, and then you as an home buyer would also do. So everybody have their role to play. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Uchenna. That was really, really elaborate, and I'm sure Murtala has all the answers to his questions. Finally, we'll be taking the question from Akande. I'll be unmuting you. I'll be, enabling your mic shortly. You can unmute yourself now and ask your questions. Hello, are you there?
Yeah, please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Please go ahead.
All right. Thank you for the presentation. I have three simple quick questions. Number one is that I don't have account with ARM, either in pension and in business or investment. So do I need to, would that affect me? Do I need to move my pension funds to ARM? That is one. Number two, who is in best position to process this fund? Should it be the developer or the applicant itself? For instance, I've seen the developers who is saying, just take a form, just fill the form, we will do the processing. So should the developers be in the best position to do the processing, or I, that is the applicant? And number three, when there is possible infraction between the developers and maybe the applicant. For instance, I've seen a situation where after the allocation or the disbursement, since you are not going to disburse the cash to us, we are going to disburse to the developer. And after that, developer is now coming up with a lot of things. You are going to pay so for development fee. You are going to pay this for infrastructural fee. You are going to pay this, and developers is now coming with a lot of conditions aside maybe the offer letter the developer has given, and developer is now coming up with a lot of conditions. Okay, so in that possible case, who interferes? Okay, I've also seen a situation where the developer will now say, after the disbursement, the developer will now say, oh, we cannot give you this particular building again. You have to wait for another one, or we have not completed it as earlier promised. All sorts of things. In that condition, who interferes? Who settles them? Who comes in? So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Kande. Your questions are valid. To give a clear context to this, you don't need an account. You don't need to open an account with ARM. to have access to this. Like I said, and I kept saying earlier on, we are just fund managers to the program. And our job is to facilitate, just the same way with NISH, our job is to facilitate home ownership by ensuring seamless processing of mortgage, or ensuring handshake between you, the buyer or developer, with the developer or a buyer in any case where you stand, and of course the right bank to issue or provide mortgage to you. Secondly, you don't need developer to access funds for you, because those experiences were in the past or in other programs where they will have to wait long for funds to come through. This is subsequent on your direct contract, mortgage contracts with your developer and the bank, of which at that point, everybody's paid off. Let me just put it this way. So let's have a scenario like you said. You identify the property. We are not selling land. We are not paying you money for somebody that is developing and is at land level or is about starting. We're not talking of ongoing projects that is below 75% completion. We're talking of fully developed projects that are at the level of 75% and above. And it's up to you if you decide you want to take carcass, buy of carcass at that point. At the point where you pay your equity contribution, we paid off your developer the remaining outstanding balance. So at that point, you have no business anymore because the developer goes with his money. You are owning your property immediately. The only difference is that a legal mortgage is already on the title, which has been registered because of the amount of money that was released to the developer to pay off his outstanding. Your contract starts with the bank at that point, because at that point, based on your mortgage contract, you start your repayment process. And the property is in your possession at that point. It is up to you now that you bought a carcass to develop and complete at your own will or at your own discretion. So you have nothing to now do with the developer in terms of developer comes to come and say it is a different property, because on your offer letter with the developer, everything is stated. All you want to do is stated, and you have paid off the developer. So at that point, it's a one-off transaction that has been cleared up. So it does not give room for protracted payments that will now allow developers to change their mind. But of course, we've seen instances in this business where before the person had finished his mortgage processing, developer changed his mind to pay, to sell off the property. At that point, the monies will not go to the developer. The monies only go to the developer when the property itself is available for you to take possession. So having said that, infractions and rooms for those type of infractions are not availed in this process, because at the point where you made your equity contribution, the plug and play is applied there. You have paid off, developer goes, you take possession of the property and start paying your mortgage at a structured way. With that, everybody's free of this type of infraction. So all these experiences you have brought up is because there's a protracted payment plan. And the developer has seen, okay, if they want to help you out, it will take a long time, but they have their own way of handling a bank. And that's mostly for those type of banks. They're dealing with full-fledged commercial businesses, commercial banks, full-fledged mortgage banks. This is a different scheme entirely. And that's basically what we're trying to explain. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Uche. That will be all for that. We'll quickly just take the final comments from the head of investment, MREIF with ARM, in person of Olubi. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, I
Hello?
can.
B, can
And,
you? Great. So please go
yes,
ahead
I
with
can.
the floor. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, Frank, and good evening to everyone on the call. It's been a very insightful session, even for me, that is very close to the transaction. And I believe this is an opportunity that will be very, very useful to everyone on the call. We thank you for joining us, and we hope that you found the session very insightful and valuable. We'll say a very big thank you to the organizers, Mr. Adelabu, and the presenters, Frank and Uche. And, you know, we're very grateful for this audience, and we are very, very hopeful that, you know, we would see the numbers from NISH, you know, applying for the MREIF mortgages. As Uche has said, you know, this is a self-service mortgage application process. You don't, it's not complicated, it's straightforward, it's not a long process, provided that you have all your documentation and, you know, you are very available. Within 3 to 6 weeks, your transactions will be processed and you become a homeowner within, you know, 2 months. So we enjoin you to, you know, if you have further questions, please come forward. We have members of our team that are readily available to support you. And, you know, any information you need, any support you need, we are very much available. And I believe there will be further sessions that will be done. If there are still further information you require, you could either join the subsequent sessions or tell your colleagues and friends to also join as well, so that they can hear all about the MREIF and also benefits. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much, with that, of course, we've come to the end of the webinar. Thank you very much for joining. Before we go, just a quick reminder of the, you know, the link to join. You can do a search, join housing.mreif.com.ng. Once again, it's housing.mreif.com.ng. The link will be, of course, sent to the various WhatsApp group that you belong to. Thank you once again. We'll be seeing you in 2 weeks. Have a good one. Bye for now.